Hello and welcome to exploring the new Nuxt.com website with Vue Designer. I am Ahmed Kaja from Pinegrow, and this week is quite special. Nuxt Nation 2023 is happening, and we had an amazing first day, wonderful panel, excellent speakers, and Vue Designer is proud to be one of the community partners for this largest Nuxt conference. Two key highlights. Anthony Fu showcased Nuxt DevTools version 1.0, which is amazing. The second one was the new Nuxt.com website that was launched. And the best part of this is they open sourced the code for this website, which is an excellent thing because it's a great learning opportunity for us, a learning resource for all of us. It is perfect timing because I personally am exploring NuxtSEO.com and the Nuxt image module to uplift some of the templates we host for the Nuxt flavors in Vue Designer across Tailwind CSS, Nuxt UI, and Vuetify. And now we can all take inspiration from the Nuxt.com repo because it's by the best Nuxters in the world. So let's go back to Nuxt.com, and then I'm going to bring my terminal in and run npx unlighthouse -- site and Nuxt.com. So what this does is it runs Lighthouse on the entire Nuxt.com site. And let's see what happens. It's going to run through all the routes and then give us the results. So the process just got completed. I paused for a few minutes. It took some 5 to 6 minutes. So I ran the Lighthouse on the entire site. And look at the score. It's all green. And we're talking about the score of entire site, not just a cute landing page. So we're talking about a very highly content-rich website that's also like highly interactive. So this has to be one of the best repos out there. So let's go all the way to the footer. It's looking really nice. Let me maximize a little bit. But I couldn't help but notice one small thing, which is you see this subscribe to newsletter section column. So when we actually minimize the screen, you can see that it sort of wraps to and gets left aligned to the left. And if I go all the way to the smallest screen possible in my browser, we can see that the footer links are all sort of stuck to the left. And also this newsletter subscription is sort of again left aligned. And this is a good opportunity for us to sort of deep dive into the repo to see if we can visually sort of design this in Vue Designer. So I've got the repo already cloned here. So I forked it, cloned it to my local drive, and also I've opened it in Vue Designer. And when I opened it for the first time, it popped up, the config panel popped up, and I follow the instructions in the config panel to install the Pinegrow Nuxt module, which is a wrapper on top of a development-only Vue plugin for us to sort of, that enables the live designing of components, Vue components in Vue Designer. Now I'm going to do one small thing just to mitigate one of the HMR issue I've been having. So in package.json, I am going to override a Nuxi. Again, it's just a temporary thing just for this video. And I'm going to pin it to 3.8.4, and then I'm going to do pnpm install. And it has finished installing. So again, it's just a temporary thing. You might not have to do it. Let's start our dev server, pnpm dev. And then let's go to Vue Designer and let's close the config panel. I'll double click to collapse this file explorer, project explorer. And then I'm going to use the menu, window, UI zoom 125, just to maximize my screen a little bit, the whole interface, so that it's more visible for you when I'm actually playing around here. And then click on the open the startup page. So we are connected to the dev server here, and it's shown by the green status. And then let's click on the open the startup page, and that opens the index page or the home page. So the home page was the startup page, and so Nuxt.com is opened in the internal browser of Vue Designer. So I'm going to use this drop down here just to select, it lists all the responsive widths, sizes. So I'm going to go to SM, which is small size, or maybe all, which is the lowest possible. And what we have here in here quickly, so this is the page tree that represents the page that's currently open in the page view, and which is the template of the single file component. And down here is the state panel, which displays the state of this currently loaded component. So we've got a description, there's a page object and site object and title and a couple of state. And we've got also a props panel here on the right here, which is, which displays props, slots, ability to add directives and that sort of operations. So we're going to use these two panels in this video. And what I'm going to do is just resize it a little bit so that it's more visible. And I'm going to collapse these two. So the next landing page is in fact two components, not just two components. One is the Vue landing hero, and the other one is a Vue landing section. So these Vue components are actually in fact Nuxt UI Pro components. So if you're not familiar, Nuxt UI is one of those component libraries that is Tailwind based, and it kind of powers a lot of the Nuxt sites. So these are, I believe, are components from the Nuxt UI Pro version. And what these two do is they kind of take a couple of slots. So the first one takes top, title, description, link. So it can take all these slots and it kind of displays all the sections in this landing hero. And then there's a Vue landing section, which again takes a couple of slots, and that seem to load different sections in the page. Down here, we've got a home section integration, and we've got a home section contributors, and we've got a testimonial. Now we've got source DOM mapping, which means we can select anywhere in this page and it'll display which component it's part of. So it's quite possible that you might have this element menu getting displayed. So I'm going to turn this off for this video. So this is part of this. This is the span, and we've got this component, which is the home section integration. And let's go all the way to the top. And then if we click on this index.vue root node, it displays the app tree of the currently loaded page. So let me go scroll all the way to the top, and we've got an app header, and then that contains a logo component, and you can see that it's kind of highlighted in the page. And then there's this home hero background, and there are some brands here, which is down here. So these are the different brand components. And then we've got a home section feature, and then all the way down is the app footer. So we are interested in the app footer. So what we can do is navigate across all these components in Vue Designer. So if I select app footer, it loads the app footer in the page tree. And we have a Vue footer component, which again is part of the Nuxt UI Pro component, and it takes a few slots, a top, left, and right, and it has some state. Basically, it contains a footer links, which is an array of objects, and it seems to have some children. So basically, each of these footer is in fact these groups. So there's a community, there's an enterprise, and there's solutions. So these three are the footer groups, and that's what is represented by these array of objects. And it seems to sort of consume that array of objects. It has a prop called links, and it's kind of consuming that. And I haven't looked deep into it, but I would have expected the footer columns component to sort of have that responsively displayed. Maybe this is the way it's sort of designed to have. But how about we sort of change that the way it's kind of getting displayed. In addition to that, there's also the newsletter form, which is kind of displayed here in the bottom, and it's kind of it's part of the right slot. So the footer columns have a right slot, and it's sort of using that. So what we could do is we can separate those three navlink groups, and then consider this newsletter form as the fourth one, and then have the four cards sort of responsively displayed. So there are a couple of ways to solve this, but I'm going to just go with just using flexbox. Again, flex and grid is something the different best practices. For me, flex is generally used for a single dimension that can wrap. So we could take these four, and then wrap them depending on the screen size. So I'm going to firstly move this out of the newsletter form. I'm going to move it up here, and then remove this template right. So essentially both of them are siblings. So the newsletter forms comes down, and then we've got this footer columns. I want to remove this footer links and then pass an empty array. So there won't be any groups. What we can do now is, since we have three footer groups, we can v-for, which is it's a good candidate for a looping. So click on this add directive in the props panel, and then say v-for. And what that creates is it creates it's just created 4 instances of the footer columns component, but we want to iterate over this footer links array. So I'm going to copy the key and then replace 4 with that, and then the val, I'm going to call it footer groups, enter. So what that did is it created 4 instances of the footer columns component. And whenever we use a v-for, we have to add a key. So I'm just going to use the index of the array as a key for now, but I think like each of them might actually have a ID that we could use. And now what we can do is we can pass the footer groups, which is each of those group as the links, but it won't display because the links is expecting an array, and each of these group is actually an object, as you can see here on the state panel. So what we could do is just wrap that in as and pass it as an array. So essentially it's an array of just one object each. So what that did is it created 3 instances, as you can see here. There's a community instance, and there's an enterprise instance, and there's a solution instance. And then the fourth item, a card, is a newsletter form. So we've got 4 that we can responsibly display using flexbox, and we can wrap it in smaller screens. So in order to have these 4 in a flexbox and wrap them, we need to enclose these 2 in a div. So I'm going to select this footer column and then add an element on the top by clicking on this helper. And then I'm going to say, I want to insert a div, and then select these 2 and push them into the div. And now we've got a div, and what we can do is make it flexible. So I'm going to use the helper here in the props panel, and then change the display to flex. And what we saw that is like, all those 4 are now in the same row. But we want all these 4 to be wrapping. So what we can do is under in the section, flex section, we can say that we want the flexbox to wrap by clicking on this icon. So what that do is it wrapped those 3 columns, 3 boxes, the footer boxes, and then below that the last one is the subscribe to our newsletter, which is fine. So I think this is good because instead of having all the footer in one long column, we've got the footer two cards on one row, and the third one wrapped, and then we've got the subscribe to our newsletter all the way in the bottom. But what we could do is you can see that the subscribe to newsletter and the description is left aligned. We could center align it for the mobile screen. So in order to design that, we can either use the app tree and then select the newsletter form component, or we can double click on this in the tree itself so that we can drill down into the newsletter form. So now I am in the newsletter form component, and it looks like there's a U form group component, and that's using U input component of Next UI. And then that's containing a button. So the input it's looking good. I think the label and the description is what I want to center align. Now we got a challenge here because this component is sort of taking the label and the description as a prop here. You can see here the label and the description are sent as props, and we don't have any props to sort of center align them responsively across different screens. There are different ways to solve it. Again, one way is I'm going to remove sending these props, the description and the label. So it's not sending the description and label. And instead, inside just above this input, we can add a div. Maybe not a div, just a paragraph, and then another paragraph just below that, because para is a block element. So just click on this icon to insert those two paragraphs here. So they are empty at the moment. I'm going to use this drop down next to the inner HTML to bind the label to the first P, and use the same to bind the description. So we've got both of them in here. But now that we've got them, as separate elements in the form group, we can sort of apply responsive, centering and that sort of stuff. So the description is sort of touching with the label above. So let's add some margin on the top. Click on this second icon and then add a margin of, let's say, 2, so that it's not touching with the title, or maybe 4. That looks okay. And I believe the description wasn't looking that big. So I'm going to double click on, I'm going to press double shift to bring a floating panel. And now we can change the size of it. So the base is the default, maybe make it small. So it is small now. And then the subscribe to our newsletter, we can make it a little bold, a medium, or I think semi-bold, so that it kind of stands out. I believe it was actually the same size of this heading, so it should be a little smaller. So I'm going to use SM, and that looks like it. Okay, and then we can add some margin so that it's not touching the description just above that. Cool. Now we can simply select both the paragraphs and then center align them using this helper, and they are in the center now. So I am going to turn off the display helper just to show everything without any selection on the page, and we can see that our footer is looking good. And then we've got the subscribe to our newsletter center aligned, but the text box, the input box, is not center aligned. Let's check the input component, and just here we can see that it has a maximum width set to the small screen. So it's always going to be that maximum width. So one way to solve that is remove that, so that it can take the full width of the page or its parent. So now it's looking good. Our subscribe section is sort of center aligned, and our footer links groups are kind of wrapping in the mobile screen, which is 480 pixel. I'm going to save the page. So I think we're good with the mobile screen. Now the next thing to do is the small screen. So we can use this drop down and select small. So the page is small size. I will resize my panel a little bit so that I can see the whole page. let's scroll up a little bit. We can see that the groups are taking, more width than they could. So one way to solve that is make the width of those photo groups responsive for this small screen. So we used half the width for the mobile screen, but for this one small screen we can make it 1/3 because that's the width that it require. Now you can see that there's actually a icon here, and I have sync with page view selected in the props panel. And SM is selected now because we are in SM size. Now, when that sync is turned on, the variant or the size variant is automatically selected here, and any visual helpers we use now will have the SM colon applied to it. Now let's select the groups. So we have to go back to our app footer and go to the U footer column, and down here the width it's showing that the all screen is half, but we are in the mobile SM screen, small screen, so we can say we want the width to be 1/3 now. Now we can see that it's since it's inside a flexbox, it's sort of unwrapped, and it's taking 3 columns nicely. And then below here we've got the subscribe to our newsletter column box, and that looks a little odd because it's not center horizontally. So let's select this tag, and then you can see that when both the components are already loaded in Vue Designer, we can select, and automatically that component will load when we select the corresponding element in the page view. And the form group, I'm going to select the form. We can apply, have that particular box form to be the whole screen. So we can set the width to full, and that will take the whole screen. So now it's looking good. So we've got 3 groups of footer and subscribe to a newsletter down here, center aligned horizontally. But our input box is kind of taking, it's too wide. I don't think it should be that wide. Again, we are in the small screen, and we can restrict the width of this form just to maybe 2/3. Let's try 2/3. 1/3 will be too small, and if it is 2/3, it's got the right size now. So I think that's a good size, but it's sort of left to the left. So again, let's go back to the parent component, the app footer, and then select this newsletter form. And since these 4 are part of the flex, we just have to fix the margin of the newsletter form. So let's use the spacing control, the second one, and we can MX auto, which is auto on the right and auto on the left, and then auto on the right. So what this does is it sets the MX auto so that it's always in the center. Now, whenever we work on one screen, we need to make sure that it's not actually impacting the other one. So in order to go to the smallest screen, again, there's some shortcuts here, Command 1 or Control 1. So I'm going to use that, Command 1. And then now let's go down. It's looking good. And then Command 2. It's looking good on the small screen. Now what's left is the next one, which is medium screen. I am recording this in a laptop with already a zoomed interface. So medium screen is going to be a bit of a real estate issue for me. So let's do Command 3 to go into medium screen. And we can see that we have to horizontally scroll. I think we can resize the panels and still use it. And what we can do is use this drop down here and select fit. So what it does is it sort of minimizes the whole page. Again, it's not changing the size of the whole page or something. It's just the way it's kind of how you use Command minus to zoom out. So that's what I've done. And I'm looking at the medium screen, and it's looking good. Like I think they still, it's good to have the three groups in one row instead of squeezing them, because even if we squeeze them 1/4 of the screen, this won't have space in the fourth column. So I think we're good with the medium screen as it is. Let's go to the large screen, Command 4. And now, this is taking a lot of space, and this is kind of, too wide. Now, in order to work on this, I am going to float these this last column of panels by clicking on this icon on the end. And all these panels can be taken to a secondary monitor if you've got one. I'm going to bring in the props panel whenever I want it. So we've got 1, 2, 3 now. So now this is again like too wide in the large screen. So it was half, 1/3 in the small screen. Now this could be 1/4. I think that'll be enough for it to fit. So I'm going to bring this in, and we are already in the large screen. And let's set the width of it, and let's set it to 1/4. So we can see that all these three columns are now sort of, it's the right fit. And but our newsletter is down here. So what we need to do is change that. So since we are doing, so what size did we do? So it is 1/4. So this can't be 1/4, the last 1/4, last quarter. So it has to be a little wider than the other ones. So we might have to reduce this to not 1/4. We can reduce it to, let's say, 2/5 or 1/5. Yeah, so that'll do. So 1/5 is actually a good size for these groups now. What that means is now we can change the size of the newsletter form by selecting it here, and then we can say its width, it's going to be the remaining, which is 2/5. Cool. Now we can see that it's taking 1/3, 1/5, second 1/5, third 1/5, and this is taking the remaining. So we've got a good responsive footer now. Let's now test the bigger size, which is Command 5, I believe. Yep. So I think it's looking good. I think like the large screen, whatever we did, it's doing its job. And I'm going to save this now, and let me open it in an external browser so that we can see it as to how it works. So I am going to go all the way down to the footer. Now it was like this before. It's just that there's one small difference. This wasn't center aligned, so we might have to still fix that. So on the large screen, the newsletter form, we want the p tags, the label and the description to be left aligned. So we have to go into that and select those two p tags. Working on the tree is more accurate. So I'll bring the props panel in, and then I will use the text control, and then we'll left align them. So they'll be left aligned only on the Excel screen. Actually, it has to be done in the previous one, because we're not doing anything special for the large screen. So the Excel screen, Command 4 to the large screen, and this is where we want to do center align so that it applies to the Excel as well. So I will select both the paragraphs, and now we can select left align them. Cool. Let's save that and come to our browser. So now you can see that the subscribe to the newsletter, this is how it was when we started. But let's now test how it'll sort of responsibly work. When we go all the way to the large screen, it's looking good. And then when we go to medium, we can see that the subscribe to newsletter sort of wrapped, which is good. It's sort of, I believe like we can put some distance here. So let me go back here, and then in medium screen, I did Command 3. we could add some padding, so margin. So I'm going to go to the smaller screen, and then if you recall, we added some margin on the bottom. So we could increase that so that it'll be, so I'm going to add a margin of 12. And now let's come back here. So it added some, so the margin on the bottom kind of pushed the subscribe to newsletter section down. And then let's go down to, so this is a small screen, sorry, medium screen, and then go down to small screen, and it's looking still good. And then go all the way to mobile screen. And we can see that it's sort of wrapped, and this one took the last row. So there we are. So I'm going to close this so that it'll undock back. Now, it might look like a lot of work, as in like the way I'm kind of doing it, but in fact, it's like super powerful once you get the hang of it. And the best part is, like you can visually design these, and you can co-author your components in Visual Studio Code at the same time. It's just that you'll have to save at one end before swapping to the other end so that there's no conflict in the code. And the other thing is, I will double click on these panels to collapse them. And we could have actually opened a new page view by clicking on this icon, which will open here. And we could have these panels open in a secondary monitor and work on these two sizes the same time. So when we select this screen, this view, it will automatically swap in the props panel. And then when we go here and work on this, it'll automatically swap. So this way we can work on multiple screen sizes the same time. So it's a new way. We are looking for a lot of feedback from the community. Vue Designer is for the Vue community, and it's agnostic of meta frameworks and component libraries. And we have got a lot of awesome templates here, which we are improvising slowly. So again, I'm going to push this, and I'll add the updated fork in the comment. Please check out Vue Designer at vuedesigner.com. There's a fully functional trial available. We are looking at making a lot of like we've got a very exciting roadmap, and we're looking at constantly improving the tool to cater to the Vue community. So check it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.